Hello everyone and welcome to Happy Thoughts for Happy Hour. My name is Danny and thanks for joining me today. For today we're going to be discussing how parents can identify some signs and symptoms that can help them see if their child is struggling with depression. So just in the US alone, 20% of teens experience depression and 14% of those teens are at risk of developing another mental health disorder. As we know, depression is a mental illness, so it is not seen by the naked eye. Depression does not have a specific look and it does not have a specific target population. It can literally be any age group, any ethnicity, or any gender. Each one of us may know someone that struggles with depression, and if no one comes to mind, well, statistically speaking, that is impossible to not know anyone because 1 in 4 people struggle with depression. So the chances of you not only knowing one person, but multiple people is very high. I remember that as a kid, I used to think that only adults would get depression, but that is definitely not the case. The Centers for Disease and Prevention gives an estimate of 1.3 million cases with kids struggling with depression in the US alone. And there are a lot of resources that help these young kids that are struggling. About 2/3 of them actually get the help that they need. But there is still that 1/3 that is important to keep fighting for. Who's going to help them? Actually, for a really long time, my sister was part of that 1/3 of teenagers that struggled with depression, and it went unnoticed and untreated for a really long time. Even though my sister knew she was having depressive episodes, she didn't want to say anything about it because she was afraid that we would not believe her, or even worse, that we wouldn't help her. Then one day in my medical assisting class, we were learning about the fundraiser we were going to help put on that year through NAMI, which stands for the National Alliance of Mental Illness. And as we started doing more research and preparing for the fundraiser, the day came when everyone from the community came and helped and was trying to get aware of how they can help. I remember that there was a booth and I walked up to it, and the person that was there was giving out information on some of the basic signs and symptoms that one might notice in someone that struggles with depression. A couple of those signs and symptoms that I can remember were the sudden loss of energy, inability to have fun, weight change, looking to stay isolated, changes in sleep, and feelings of despair and sadness. At first I was like, oh my goodness, that sounds like my sister. But then I was thinking, but my next thought was, nah, that's just the phase she's in. She's a teenager after all. But as I kept listening and looking over the situation, I came to the conclusion that my sister might actually be struggling with depression. I went home and told my mom about my new knowledge, and immediately action was taken. Since then, my sister has been diagnosed with depression and has received the help she needs. And thanks to the fact that someone provided me with information, we were able to help her. And if you're listening to some of these things that I mentioned about depression, some of these signs and symptoms remind you of someone, well, it might be a good idea to reach out to them. And when you do so, do it in a loving manner, because like my sister that was afraid to say something, they could be afraid to say something too. So if you want to know more information on how to approach these people, or to know if there are more signs and symptoms, which there are, you can go to any of the websites I've mentioned, or www.adoldepression.com, which is www.adoldepression.com. Thanks everyone for joining me today and finding out a little bit more about depression and how you can help those people around you.